And we are live. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Holy Crap, the Vlogcast. Vlogcast that comes from a skeptical point of view to answer some of the questions of why. This Vlogcast started as a combination of spite and the Streisand effect because, oh boy, are we gonna go ahead and be really close to that Power of 10 episode energy tonight. And part of this is to follow through with the old adage that sometimes the journey is more important than the destination. I'm your main host. I'm known as Shujin Tribble, and you can pretty much find me everywhere under that name. That's S-H-U-J-I-N. Hi. Let's go ahead and get you rounded up with everybody. From the right-hand coast, right in the path of whatever Hurricane Alley is going to be throwing at him, Unrenewed Tech gets to join us this morning. Hi.
Hi. I'd much rather deal with a hurricane than politics.
That's perfectly fair, although we're going to end up doing some of that tonight anyway.
I know. Let's just say I'm having more fun with a very stubborn industrial lock that I'm trying to learn how to pick. That has virtually no security features whatsoever, but because it's old and it's been sitting outdoors for a long time, um, cleaning, oiling, and everything else, it's still warped and everything else. And I'm bound and determined to open this thing more than I am to talk about politics, as frustrating as this is.
Perfectly fine. And
Won't you open? Sorry.
because it's not yet liquid, keep that in mind.
I'll get the blowtorch. I
In
got a pin that's stuck.
induction, man, that's the way to go. And on the left-hand coast of North America, Io is joining us again because apparently we are less stressful than other things. So, Io, hi, good evening.
Stage crew, 67 hours and counting. I know it's all virtual, so it's not really real. I'm not actually physically there running around, but the mental things that you have to do, the stage crew are miracle makers.
Somebody who used to do lights and audio. Hey, did the people get the connections right?
Most of them, yes.
Did you tape down the cables?
Yep.
So to speak, at least.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so long as you don't have polarity reversing, you're usually okay. Usually. I was thinking something more along the lines of poof, but that's just me. I've smoked a CB radio once, and that was a bad moment.
My favorite was they forgot to replace the gels for the lights before the performance, so they were already partially worn out and burnt through, and they were overdue for a replacement. So in the middle of the show, it goes from white to pink, or it goes from red to pink to white as it burns all through. Finally fails, and I'm like, it's not supposed to be that color.
Nope. At least it wasn't
James,
flame.
did you get the new gels? No. Yeah. We're going to be hearing from production later.
Yeah. On the bright side, it didn't start a fire, right?
Mm-hmm.
We were lucky it didn't start a fire. Ours were not that old.
Fortunately. So, good to be back with y'all. Nice to be back. For those of you that decide that you wanted to join us while we are recording, of course, as always, you're more than welcome over on YouTube. You can join us and be over there on the live chat because that's what we're here for. Phyllis, you made it. Good evening. Hi. Hope you're doing well. I was expecting any kind of a response from her, but, you know, the time delay and all. It's just kind of be the way that it is. I'm expecting...
Me?
No, from Phyllis. Relax. Did you...
Phyllis! I want my Phyllis. I want my Phyllis. I want to give her hugs and kisses and love her and take her home and call her George and pet her and cuddle her.
No.
Run.
Or, I mean,
Run, Phyllis.
hobble at the very least. But be that as it may. And I am now out of coffee. Well, that's perfectly fine. It is what it is. No.
That's pin 5 that's stuck.
Yep, that's now no longer coffee. That's now gritty. So that's enough.
What'd you do? Cowboy coffee?
No, it's just I have a grinder for the beans that is has a couple of settings on it. off and on. So I apparently have a bad habit of not stopping soon enough, and it fits through the French press, and well, it is what it is.
Gotcha.
But you get to the very, 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 very bottom of your coffee, and I mean, it's a good sign that it's time to stop. I mean, as opposed to drinking a hole through the bottom of the steel. I've had this a very long time. This has done really well for itself. It's got a ding in it from work, because I take it to work and I put tang in it during the day. Don't judge me.
It's got a couple of them.
No. It's knurled. It's supposed to be.
No, it was
But
a
it's
joke.
it's got the one over here because it
Dude,
fell.
if you don't have a ding in it, you're not using it properly.
I am. Well, I mean, I'm putting tang in it at work in order to stay hydrated. So, and for the record,
Mine has a ding.
I mean, yours is. No, its owner is a ding.
Excuse me?
Yeah, no, that'd be about right. For the record, the tumbler is 24 ounces, about, and according to the Tang instructions, that's supposed to be like 2 full scoops of that. No, for 12 ounces. No, I use like a quarter to a third of a scoop for a full thing of water. So I'm using basically 1/6 the amount of powder that you're supposed to use according to them. And you know what? I'm perfectly fine, because I'm getting taste, and I'm not tasting just straight tap water. Thank you very much. Which is my biggest thing, so I'm staying hydrated. And that's going to be really important as we keep going into the heat indexes of near 100 Fahrenheit here in the Buffalo market.
Yeah.
I don't remember how hot it was today. I don't even have my phone here to check. But yeah, it at one point I was dripping with sweat.
I was going to mow the lawn today, and I was like, no, I'll do it tomorrow, considering that humidity was at like 150%. Is what it felt like.
Yeah.
But it was actually really, really high. And then I looked at the weather report for tomorrow, and I went, maybe I should start doing the lawn during the week, because it seems like every time I get ready to do it on a weekend, the weekend sucks.
Yeah. I'm very happy that I've got the weekend off. Well, I mean, I normally have weekends off, but I mean, the temperatures finally come down quite a bit, so I'm much more comfortable. So yeah. And I was about to say earlier that I was expecting that Stephanie was going to show up, so there you are. Hi, and Seeker. See you over there. Hello. Welcome down. It's good to have you. And Seeker is also reminding us the tumbler, it doesn't matter what you've got in it if it's empty. I mean,
that's a really, that's technically correct.
Yeah,
which is the best kind of correct.
Yeah, technically speaking, it's yeah, I know. And before I go ahead and get it over into the 5-minute freestyle, the answer to the question of, well, if this had been 50% liquid, 50% air on the inside, is it half full or half empty? I have the answer. I have the definitive answer.
Yes.
The answer is, was it last used to empty or to be filled? Ergo, that's how you know. Is it half full? Because liquid was last put in. Is it half empty? Because liquid was last removed.
Why for you hurt my poor little brain?
Tell me where the logic
Actually,
flaw is.
That was actually a proper logic flow.
I know. Why do you hurt my brain? I don't deal well with logic. I deal more with emotions.
Oh, then you should love tonight's topic.
Yes, we will see how that plays out.
Hey, you showed up.
And I have I have also definitively figured out the answer to the question of what is the airspeed of an unladen swallow? The definitive answer is 3 meters per second square in a vacuum, which means it's going to be falling down in a vacuum, which means it's dead.
Yeah, you just calculated the same speed for everything. In a vacuum. That's
And
dead.
Actually, that logic makes sense. I do understand some logic. It's just, it gets to the point where the logic starts making my head hurt because my head goes into its logical thinking and I start seeing the universe and all the.
That's called really good drugs.
yeah,
I
speaking of,
wish.
I've still got the thing. I've considered it, and you know what I'm considering doing?
Throwing them out.
Throwing them out. Because I
Okay,
don't
so-
want to be screwing with my head.
Okay, so flavor-wise, are they anything remotely close to a Sour Patch Kid?
As somebody that doesn't do gummies or Sour Patch Kids, sure. I mean,
Well, were they sour?
Not really.
Then then no, they weren't close.
I mean, a little bit, but I mean, it's more like
No. A Sour Patch Kid, a good Sour Patch Kid will make you pucker.
yeah,
Almost like a lemon drop.
yeah.
A good
That's
lemon
not-
drop, not that knockoff crap.
That's not my thing.
Or those sour airheads.
Yeah, again, not really my thing.
No worries.
If I'm gonna do anything that's gonna make me pucker, I'm gonna put more than one. I'm gonna put more than one fisherman's friend in my face. For anybody that doesn't know about Fisherman's Friend, go find it at your local chemist's / pharmacy and try to have more than one in a day. It's 104% eucalyptus per tablet, and it tastes every percentage point of it.
What was this again that you were talking about?
Fisherman's Friend.
Oh, I used to suck those 2 at a time when I was doing drum circle with the native group I was a part of. I would go through half of a tin with the rest of them in one evening.
Oh, sure. But the thing is, I didn't do it for any other reason other than I needed to. And one was more than enough to handle for me. I kept going one after another, but I never needed more than one at a time. And for the
I think I should find some.
But for the uninitiated, don't do 2 at a time. Don't do 2 at a time. Any case, Seeker is also putting out lit or unlit flatulence affect speed. In a vacuum, there's no effect because there's no flame. It's just kind of the way that it is. Unless swallows are able to expel hydrazine, in which case maybe. I don't know. It's one of those things. That would be really funny, though. So how about I get everything started, and we mute out Io and her keyboard.
Okay, fine.
And I'll get everything rolling over here because it is about that time. So with 5 minutes on the clock, your 5-minute freestyle is going to start right now. Baphomet. Oh my word. For those of you that did not see the show notes as yet, I suggest that you take a look at that because somebody pointed out a very important piece of information. The text of the picture on the tweet, yes, I'm going to call it a tweet. I'm not going to call it an Xing or a jet or whatever name they want to call it by, says, and I'm quoting you, everyone believes in freedom of religion until a statue of Baphomet is erected. Oh, how accurate. It's so amazing for me when so much is made of, I believe in the First Amendment and the Second Amendment and the Fourth Amendment and the Fifth Amendment. Okay. I mean, you're skipping over like the Third Amendment, but I mean, who really needs to worry about, the army being put up in your house? Yeah, I remember that one. But the First Amendment, I'm sorry. There's a thing about this that some people kind of forget about. Here in the United States, the First Amendment is the one that has been trotted out many a time that talks about, freedom of speech. It's a really bad delusion, meaning like liquid and particles and solution kind of thing, disillusion. It's a bad way of describing it because there are various pieces in there that are really important. Now, the one about religion is the one that basically says the state is not to be making rules regarding a religion, any religion, being, quote, official. Now, what that basically means is that in the United States, according to the letter of the law, you're welcome to practice pretty much whatever religious ideology you like. So, here in the United States, over the 200 and almost 50 years, we've had lots of different religious groups come over here. And we have pushed out many others. Yeah, that's a whole black mark on our history, and I'm not going to completely ignore that by any stretch of the imagination. But one of the biggest groups right now, by volume, if you will, in several layers, are the Christians. The ones who, for whatever reason, claim to be following the teachings of Jesus the Christ. And for anybody that wants to go ahead and fight me on this one, Christ is his title, Jesus is his name. Now, being that as it may, it's a difficult thing for some of these people to accept that there are others who don't believe in the same thing that they do. They might not have ever heard of Jains, for instance, or what Sikhism is, or even understood what a Buddhist believes, or someone that follows a Shinto. There are so many denominations of so many different beliefs out there. And one of the most unique, are those from the Satanic Temple. Because even though they have a recognized religion, according to the U.S. government, according to the IRS, the tax folks over here in the government, they don't believe in the supernatural. For them, Satan is a literary figure. It's a figurehead. It's a placeholder for an idea. So when they go around and they trot out, we would now like to, you've got the 10 Commandments over here on the steps of the courthouse. We would now like to put on the opposite side, Baphomet with kids. Just sitting there in his chair, just saying hi. And nothing else. These people lose their freaking minds because they don't understand. If you invite in one, you invite them all. It is an all or nothing categorical question. And if you want to go ahead and say you are welcome to have a religion here in this country, cool. Yours? Maybe you should really answer that question before you go ahead and start putting your foot down somewhere, because you might be putting it right in your own damn face. So with that covered, I think we'll move on. We'll go over to the scopes, and then we can get into the actual meat and potatoes of everything. So let's go ahead and do that. As always, time for the horrible scopes. For those of you that know what your astrological sign is, cool. Those of you that don't, you can find yourself a D12 and roll that with the cool squiggles on it. I don't know what they're really called. There's a word for those things. I don't even know. I don't even care. But if you don't have one of those and you want to buy one, get in touch with the nice folks over there at Heart of the Game Fredonia. Look them up on Google Earth and look in the window. You'll see them over there. And if you decide to buy something, cool. I don't know that they can ship it, so you're going to have to visit. And if you do, just make sure that the mimic is still in the window. It's Heart of the Game Fredonia. Hail, hail Fredonia, the home of the Blue Devil. Now, it's been a little while since the last time I just basically just put the music on and communed with the stars and let them inspire me. So that's what I did this week. So it's time to get back to the roots. So I hit shuffle on the big box of music in my basement. And now let's see what the brain came up with. And for the record, 100% stone cold sober coming up with these. As always, contrary to what I have been asked on many an occasion. No, I have no drugs of any kind, no antihistamines, no alcohol, coffee. That because that's my natural state. I run on coffee. Aries, it's not the first song to play, but the second one. Yours is an old Amiga Mod Trekker song called Korchuchka, released in 1992, maybe? The dates on fan-produced music from that era are kind of hard to come by, seeing as how the only way of spreading your stuff was either via a bulletin board system or shareware discs or CD compilations on magazines. You remember those days? So this week, most of what you learned is old and outdated, but it's still entertaining. Don't think you're down and out. You're just the best kind of retro.
Taurus. Really showing everyone up this week, Taurus. The recording is, arguably, the best version, even if it is a cover. You've gotten Vivaldi's Spring, as performed by the Budapest String Orchestra. You're going to tell everyone you don't really like this song, that you don't even know it. We know that's a lie. So this week, the song is almost 10 and a half minutes long. It's perfect for your drive home from work each day. Turn off the podcast and put on some classical music to de-stress. And if you ever grew up watching cartoons, you know Spring.
Oh, yes, I am unmuted. Careful. I run around as a cat on Second Life. Give me a break. Gemini, speaking of covers, your song coming up is a classic. Originally by the Turtles, we're listening to Happy Together by, and we can't believe this is true, none of us, Weezer, off the Teal album. Yes, the Teal album. You might want to check out that record since it's just 10 tracks of all cover songs. So this week, not all of those covers are this good, but this is a pretty good, modernized, perk me up tune, just ready for you to wake up in the morning to. It's better than their cover of Rosanna by Toto, so keep that in mind.
However, Weezer does a cover of Africa, and Weird Al helps.
Yes.
I know, I ran across that today. I actually ran across something that Weird Al did within the last 24 hours.
Yeah, I saw
and
that.
I love it.
I
love it.
I haven't listened to it yet, but I did see that it's out there.
Mm.
My favorite version of Africa, however, is the one that was done by a whole bunch of basically high school age students in Gaelic. Actually, you know what? Somebody remind me. I'll see about putting that into the show notes again. It's been a little while. Cancer Moonchild. It's hard to believe, but Our House from Madness is up for you. Clocking in from 1982, his genre is considered new wave, pop, and ska. And what a wild sound. It's not just the typical rock and ska band, but there's what sounds like a disco orchestra behind them with strings aplenty. So this week, give yourself a self-pamper staycation at night after dinner. Pop some corn and watch some comfort TV. You don't need to carry workplace stress with you all week.
And if you're like somebody I know and you can't stand getting those popcorn kernels in your mouth, there's something on the market called puff corn, PUFFCORN. Look it up; it's delicious.
The best way to
And
popcorn is in a wok. Fight me.
I won't because I agree with you. The most entertaining though is those pressure containers where they superheat
I
them and then they let them open and it goes bang and they all pop at once.
yes, the popcorn grenade.
Yeah, I did the open top popcorn cooking on the stove once with my kids. They went after and caught them as they flew out.
Except for the splattering hot oil, grease, butter thingy, that's actually pretty fun.
Yeah, I was gonna say second-degree burns really isn't that much fun with popcorn.
Leo, you're at the other end of the spectrum, Leo. Vicky Sue Robinson's high energy hit, Turn the Beat Around, is just what the doctor ordered. Almost literally. You need to find a pace to exercise to, and this is going to do you well. We're not looking to trim you down to a swimsuit body, but just to give you a more activity in general. So this week, get your bike to a shop and give it a much needed tune up so you can pedal to the beat. What? You thought we were going to say you should jog at that pace? Oh, please. We know you better than that.
I'm thinking about the bike thing, and for Father's Day on Sunday, it disappeared. I finally found it today, and I handed Blackcourt stepfather's count too. It was the one
Oh,
tool that he didn't have in his toolkit for his bike, which was a spoke fixer or
there you go.
tuner or whatever. He was really happy.
The nice thing about a bicycling is it's also low impact compared to jogging.
Well, it's supposed to be.
Yeah, it's supposed to be. It depends on the road upkeep. Potholes are very high impact. Speaking from experience.
So are cars, speaking from experience. Virgo, now you get a song that you can strut walk to. Sooner or Later by the Grassroots gives you an upbeat pace if you're stepping on the ones, a boogie strut if you stick to 1 and 3, or, and you're allowed to do this, if you have the song playing so others can hear it, double step left foot 1, 2, and then double step right foot 3, 4. It's going to look clunky as hell, but once everyone can hear why you're moving and grooving, they might even join in with you. So this week, open your shirt halfway to your navel and let your chest hair fly in the breeze.
It's just a jump to the left.
That's a different
And
song.
then a step from the right.
One step right now. Two steps right now. That's a different way. Libra, you say you want a revolution. Well, we all want to change the world. But when you talk about destruction, don't you know that you can count me out? So this week, look, if we gave you anything more than that, some Sue Hoppy copyright lawyer is going to serve us with a cease and desist letter. And we're not risking it. We're not risking that for you. But at least it's going to be all right. So stay in school and eat your vegetables, kids.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys watch Dr. Mike on YouTube, but he actually got a cease and desist from a guy he had on interviewing who was making some very wild out there claims. Dr. Mike likes, actual science, medical science. He doesn't like mumbo jumbo or happy hippie holistic horseshit.
Okay.
And so some guy mentioned something about they probably lived as long as they did or was healthy as long as they did because of cigarettes, right? But only in that scenario.
Mm.
And so when that went live, the guy he interviewed, his team of lawyers sent a cease and desist saying, "Hey, look, you make it sound like this guy is advocating that cigarettes are healthy." And he's like, "No, no, I just put the whole interview in there instead of." Well, anyway, I'll make sure we have it for the show notes. But damn, it's just one of those that Really, Dr. Mike, you gave him a cease and desist for doing what he does best, which is actual medical science and, you know, whatever.
I
I just
mean,
wish I just wish that doctors and medical science would actually study children of smokers as adults as well as people who have never ever ever smoked in their life. How does cigarette smoke affect them? Because I'm a child of a
Badly,
smoker.
badly. It affects us badly too, because secondhand smoke is just as deadly as firsthand.
Actually, I think it's more deadly because the first-hand smokers, they have that filter that supposedly catches some of the particulates that are going in. Whereas
It all
we
depends
don't
on
have
how
that.
much. It all depends on how much you've had over how much time and so on. It's one of those things. Besides, some parents smoke non-filtered Lucky Strikes.
my
Uh,
uncle used to.
yeah,
My mother's was Rothman's.
know a couple people. Scorpio, we're not sure to be amused or embarrassed for you or ourselves for this song. In 1990, the cast of Simpsons made an album, and your song from the album is "Do the Bartman." Honestly, without the video as reference framework, it's just a dated piece of pop culture nostalgia. So this week, it's okay to let some parts of your past go. Some parts deserve to be dropped by the side of the road, emotionally speaking. Now, I would like to say I had to read that under duress because I love that song.
Yeah, well, you're also voluntarily on this show too, so I mean, what does that really say?
Mm,
We need to be paid more.
I'll bring that up with management.
yeah, we'll double what you're getting paid already.
Well, time and a half anyway.
Um, If I had my camera on, you'd see me speechless. Sagittarius. Just so that we're clear here, this is the song title and nothing more, okay? I want to be loved by you, just you, shoo-boop-be-doo. Sung by Helen Kane. You might not recognize the song by title or performer, but what if we told you it was Betty Boop's signature song? Boop, boop, be-doo. Now, you remember it, right? Amazing how that works, right? Bet there are long past family members that had songs they used to sing for you when you were a kid, right? So this week, try to remember what those songs were and enjoy some wonderful memories from when Yahoo was a food group for you.
Some people are going to go ahead and take umbrage at that one, and you're welcome to be wrong.
Okay, there is nothing wrong with Yoo-hoo. As long as it's cold. Warm Yoo-hoo? Oh, God. No.
I don't think I ever had it in Canada.
That's okay too. That's quite okay too. You more than likely ended up having abuelita in the winter, so you were more likely,
No,
I should say.
no, I don't remember that one either.
Okay, I'll have to find you some. Capricorn. It looks like that whole watch a movie idea finally caught up with us. You're getting the techno song Rinsler by Daft Punk from the Tron Legacy movie. Now, we're not likely to get a finale to the Tron movie franchise. A second season of the Tron cartoon won't happen. So you need the trifecta of serious disappointment. So this week, there's heavy thunderstorms coming. Get a blanket, make popcorn, and binge watch Reboot until Megabyte says the words, "Prepare yourselves for the hunt." And just feel bad at what we never got.
Closure.
Oh God, that would have been so glorious. That would have
There
been
are so
so
many
glorious.
shows that were fantastic that he never freaking finished. Ugh.
Reboot is one of them.
Yeah, exactly. Aquarius. One more cartoon song, and it's educational, too. Yakko's World from Animaniacs, as sung by Rob Paulson, aka Yakko Warner. The part that some never realize is that the announcer at the very beginning is also Rob. So there's literally nobody but him in that song. And that typifies your normal personality. That isn't a compliment. So this week, you don't have to handle everything in your life. It's okay to ask for help. Just try to do it before you get overwhelmed.
United States, Canada, Mexico, Panama, Haiti, Jamaica, Peru.
You know, if you're gonna do it, at least get through the first line straight.
The universe song is great because at the end
I was
we go,
saying
hey,
it
you
with
forgot Uranus.
I was saying it without the lyrics in front of me. United States, Canada, Mexico, Panama, Haiti, Jamaica, Peru, Puerto Rico, Colombia, then Argentina,
Nope.
Venezuela.
Venezuela, whatever. Doesn't matter. I did like the first 10-ish countries
It's fine.
20, 30 years ago, and I got myself a contact bar. They were actually asking us, what do you want? What can you do for a contact bar? They had a display in Vancouver, BC, and it was the best thing that happened that day. They actually told me, okay, stop. So thank you.
I'll give you one good one before I let you finish off. What can you do that nobody else can do? I can speak every state capital in the United States in alphabetical order in under 15 seconds. Ready? Washington, D.C.
Remind me to bring matches if I ever visit. Hi. Poor Alaska, stuck between two war criminals. One of them was Russia, and the other one was successful. Okay, Pisces, you're not exactly a fan of old school rap, but here we are. Your song is Peter Piper by Run DMC, and the opening is killer. They're trading off words with perfect timing to recite parts of nursery rhyme parts before they actually finally do proper rap performing. They were so good at what they did back in the day. So this week, you're going to get back into shape. The only way that's worth a damn. Buy an old school boombox that uses 8D size batteries. Really miss one. And carry it around an hour a day. You'll either get buff or bend your clavicle. Good luck.
Yeah, these
I really miss mine.
Yeah, these 6D battery. No, come on. If you're gonna do it right. And since they don't use, lantern batteries and the opposite sides in order to power the damn thing anymore, what are you gonna do? Those are your horrible scopes for this week. If you like what you got, don't really much care, because nobody actually bribed me. Although some can. You could actually just ask for something nicer or naughtier, or literally bribe me over the coffee page. It's coffee.com/Icarus the Lunar Guard. I'll have these posted online at the end of the week. Tumblr, Twitter, Facebook, Discord, Blue Sky. I'm not even going to offer anymore because it's just not going to be worth it. I can't even afford to ship the stupid thing. I need all the money I can get right now. And I'm still waiting to find out if I'm getting a raise. I better damn well get a raise. I don't think I'm going to get 10%, but I think that I deserve it. But you know what? Piece at a time. Right? Piece at a time. That's what I'm going to have to go with.
Let's see. What was my offer at? $3 last time, or was it $4?
I don't even remember. It could have been $4 Canadian, in which case it's almost
You
shipping.
think I'm going to give you Canadian? Do you honestly think it?
I do have a box that I keep with Canadian money on it so that when or if I get across the border, I've still got it. Stuff doesn't expire. Well, I was going to say Canadian money doesn't expire, but then I've still got some pennies in there.
Keep the pennies.
Yeah.
$5?
I'll think about it.
So you've had an offer.
Yeah, It's fine. I'll see how much it costs to get an acrylic kit, so I can. Maybe
You don't have to put it in acrylic.
Yeah, but it's a personal thing. This is episode 498 on the docket, Your Honor. It's time for New Blood. For those of you that maybe didn't read the show notes or the description quite correctly, let me reiterate it. In the United States, one of the few requirements to be president of the United States is, well, you have to be 35 years old. That's one of the few times where there is an actual, like, written age requirement in one of these documents somewhere, which is kind of an interesting piece. But again, reminding you, you have to be 35 by the time you're sworn in. So if you're 34 years old at the time of the elections, that's fine. But come January 20th, you have to be 35 at that point. And if you're not, well, then you're going to have to kind of fly the pattern and come around for the next series. But that's one of the important pieces. Now, 35 years old is relatively young, of course. We have yet to have anyone occupy the position of President of the United States of America at that age. The youngest to date was Kennedy, who was most assuredly not 35. The current frontrunners, or expected frontrunners, are both approximately 80 years old. They graduated college before man landed on the moon. If we had someone who was 35, running, and potentially winning, they would have been born in 1990. They would have lived through some amazing times, some tragic moments, and some eye-opening experiences. They would have graduated from college with a master's 2015. So I posit that maybe, just maybe, what needs to have happen, and we've kind of talked about this before, although not in very specifics like this, what needs to have happen is, quote unquote, the kids need the keys. And those that have been in positions of authority in politics for literal decades need to get, you know what, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to say it. They just need to get the fuck out of the way. So, one of the other things that I also added to the show notes was the list of, there was a website, State of the Union, and I put a link over there for them for a list of events that had happened since 1990, meaning since their effective birth. And just to give you an idea, 1990, the Hubble Space Telescope is placed in orbit, which means the shuttle program was still working. And Iraq invades Kuwait, leading to the 1991 Gulf War. Thank you very much. I remember that with terror. So, I don't know if either one of you have opened up the State of the Union page, but I would be very interested to hear what you've got to say about any of the events that are listed there, or your thoughts on the idea of having a kid at the helm, shall we say? You know what?
Well, right now we've got this narcissistic fool who is a huge grifter, and we've got somebody else who might possibly actually be dealing with dementia. Oh, wait, I'm talking about the same person. But the stress of being a president is affecting the other person.
To be expected.
You could tell he basically, his jaw dropped. Well, person number one was mouthing off again. His mouth was moving and out came shit.
Here's the thing. It doesn't. Yes, one's a liar, one does all this other stuff, but that doesn't matter at this point. What matters is that you have a politician that needs to be up there that can gather the people and unite them and find things that need to be compromised on and compromise on other things that don't need to be. Um, Depending on where you stand, it might be religion in schools, like that idiot out in the Midwest, or women's body autonomy. It can be any number of things. But the problem is that we have no one. We could have someone, but right now it benefits both the left and the right, the Democrats and the Republicans, to not have a third party, to not have anybody up there that can unite the country, because right now they're all making money hand over fist and they've all got power. I mean, people who think that the left and the right are really at odds, the Democrats and Republicans are really at odds. No, they just have an extreme. One's trying to go farther than the other, but they went to the same schools. They went to and joined the same clubs and the same golf courses and the same events. They don't have to agree to know what to do to make sure that they stay in power. They don't have to agree to make sure that their stocks stay wealthy, that they get lots and lots of shares and such. They don't need to agree to make, sure that the people of this country don't rise up. They don't need to agree on anything to make all that happen, because it was already ingrained in them before they became politicians, through their families and through their education. The education that your standard average person doesn't get. Okay. Your average person doesn't get those kinds of connections and so on. It's a private club, literally. Right. And some people work their way up into it. They're the rare individual, but they do. But for the most part, it's old money and so on. And old money likes to keep old money, and new money wants to become old money. But they don't want no money, us. So I know I may have sounded like I talked in a circle. I really didn't. This is something that I've been talking about for a long time in many different shows, and now we're seeing it. We're seeing it because we don't have the options that we should be getting as a country. We don't have people up there. We as a people could easily find a third party option of all the people running for president, because there are more than two. Who would be better by leaps and bounds? Shit, as old as he is, I would take Bernie at this point, right? It doesn't hurt that I agree with a couple of the things that he's saying, but I think he could actually survive 4 years as a term for a single term. I don't think he could survive two. I think what happened to Biden would happen to him, which would be a shame. But I think, in terms of current circumstances, if he ran, he would get my vote in a heartbeat. Um, but the Democrats did him dirty when he ran. I mean, they really did, and they should have done that. But yeah, we could find any third party that the country goes, that guy's not half bad, or that lady's not half bad, or they them's not that bad, all the pronouns and such.
Yeah. Well, let's.
But that's what I'm getting to is that we keep being told, oh, third party is throwing away your vote. Oh, third party is, it's a waste. No, it's not. It scares them.
It is, but it isn't a waste.
It isn't a waste if people would just wake up and realize it's not a waste. It's not a waste. If half this country voted for a third party, That would rock both the Republicans and the Democrats to their core.
But how many people actually vote in the United States?
Not
25%?
yeah. Yeah, as an average, somewhere between 25 and 30, and it is far closer to 25.
And of course, some of that is by making sure that certain population segments don't vote.
There is that. I mean, I understand. This is just a little bit of a sideways thing, just real quick. I understand that you can't compel voting in this country because that is seen legally as compelling speech on the population, and that is something that you at the government is not permitted to do. I do, however, very much appreciate that in Australia, voting is compel. Shoot, I forgot what
Compulsory.
Compulsory, and you have to go to the booth. You have to sign in. You do not have to place a vote, but you do have to attend. And you know what?
The idea,
That
it works.
yeah, it seems to work very nicely for them.
And part of that, that mandatory must show up and log in basically, is to ensure everybody got a chance to vote. If they chose to abstain, fine, but at least it's not a government official trying to hide votes.
I've got to assume that you had a little bit more that you were going to go.
Yeah, I ended up stagecrafting again. I was supposed to have been off an hour ago because the stage manager was supposed to take over. She said she was going to take over, but artist be the artist. They didn't want to talk to anybody but me. I can't blame them because I'm their last point of contact. But at the same time, I think I'm in a little bit of trouble by multitasking, by being there and here at the same time.
Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah,
I was like, wait a minute. How does this relate to Biden and Trump? Sorry.
I'm what is the name of the woman from California? She's not mine. Who has been holding up that whiteboard?
Oh,
Yes.
God, I forgot what her name is off the top of my head.
Yeah.
I know somebody in the chat's
Katie
gonna have it.
Porter?
Yes.
There you go.
She did a speech recently. She is a rare person in the houses. She's a single mother. She's had to deal with housing issues and with daycare and taking care of her kid while being an elected member of Congress. The only one that's even close to that might be AOC, but she doesn't have any kids, at least not yet. Most of the members of Congress and the Senate are, I hate to say this, white Anglo-Saxon males above the age of 50. They do not have the experience of, what am I going to feed my kids tomorrow? They do not have the experience of, I have to work, I have to provide daycare, my kid's sick, I can't take my kid to daycare, I can't find babysitting, I can't work today. If I don't work today, I can't feed my kid. They don't have that. They don't have that single mother thing. They don't have single father as well. I can see you, Shu. I see you. I see that finger.
I just pulled it up. Average age of members of the House at the beginning of the 117th Congress was 58.4 years. For senators, 64.3. 58 and 64 years for Congress and Senate. That says that good Christ, man.
And the reason why some of them don't have that connection, that disconnect between, when I hear the rich, the wealthy, and the powerful, when there's a crisis, go, "Oh, we're all in the same boat." It's like, no, you asshole, we're not in the same boat. We're in the same storm. You're on the yacht, and we're, if we're lucky, in a dinghy, maybe a life raft or vest. Some of us have a plank, but we're not in the same boat. And so when they talk about, oh, the cost of milk's going up, you idiot. You've never gone to the damn grocery store and gotten a gallon of milk on your own. You've always had somebody do it for you. You have no idea what a gallon of milk costs. So yeah, when I remember she did the one talking about inflation, if I'm remembering the correct person. There's plenty of representatives like Katie Porter who would make probably a much better president than anything we've had in the last decade, maybe longer than that.
If I remember correctly, she's going for senator this year. I hope she gets it. I wish I could vote for her. I really wish that I was living in her riding and had the ability to vote. I will not have the ability to vote for another 2 years and 6 months if I choose to go for my American citizenship.
Well, the way
There's
you're
actually
going, I may be applying for a Canadian citizenship.
the problem is that having American citizenship, the IRS will demand taxes no matter where you live in the entire world.
Yep.
They want their 30, 40, 50% of your income.
Got to pay for it.
It doesn't. So, yeah.
And just to cover all bases, by the way, I just ran the numbers. Going with 64 years for the Senate as an average, that means that these people would have been born in 1960. They could have potentially graduated with potentially a master's if they went to college in 1984. Does anybody remember what computational power was available in 1984?
Actually, the Apple IIe was at my school in 84, 85.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
I remember.
And then the Mac and the Commodore 64 was in that area of time. I know that because of all the hours and hours and hours I spent playing two specific games. Where in the world is Carmen Sandiego?
Yeah, but
that's right. Because shortly after we got those in our schools, my dad came home with an IBM PS1.
Yeah, and
or wait, no, even before that, I had the IBM PC Junior.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Now
so that came out about around the Apple II.
My mother told me that I didn't need any computer science because it was just a fad. Fuck you, bitch.
Well,
you're dead now, and I want to piss on your roof.
Remember, there were also a lot of teachers, grade school, high school, who would even say, for those of us that had the Casio wristwatches with the keyboards on them and the calculators and whatnot,
yep.
You're not going to have a calculator with you all the time. Reminding you, this was even still in the day when HP's pocket calculators, which were still pretty chunky pieces, were designed for fitting into a professional shirt pocket. The dress shirt, a button-up shirt, the breast pocket. It was big, it was honking, it was oversized, but you could still have it.
Things change.
They do. And the reason why I'm bringing these items up, these time-sensitive things, is not to say that these people are out of touch with technology. In some cases, they are. In some cases, some of us are. When what was it? 90? I forget what year it was. 2000, 2001-ish, give or take. No, I believe it was 2000. When I went to work for the local dial-up ISP, I bought, and I have no problem with admitting this, I bought off the shelf at a Barnes & Noble, thank you, back in the day. No, Borders books. There's a blast for you.
I miss Borders.
I miss Borders too. I bought a Modems for Dummies book. And I did it so that I could actually learn the proper ins and outs, the technical stuff as much as I could, as quickly as I could. And believe it or not, there was stuff that I learned that was super important and actually helped me professionally as a tech support guy. Okay, that is now out of date. It's effectively useless technology. It is now ephemera that most people do not understand what ATHT+++ means. Or is it the other way around? Plus, ATHT.
Hypertext Transfer Protocol.
That's not the thing.
No, that's HTTP. Add an S onto the end of it, it's the secure version.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. My thing was the command code to a Hayes standard modem protocol set. Yes, I remember that part. Thank you very much for getting its attention and making sure it's reset. Now, who knows or even remembers that anymore? The diehards who still, dealt with the hardware. The point being is that what you learn in high school and college or university is the vast majority of the information you're going to take forward from the standpoint of a systemically learned data set. So the people that are running for president right now, the vast majority of their taught information stems from before we knew what the smell of the lunar surface was. And before anybody starts laughing, you can't take your helmet, right, you can't. But you can take your helmet off in the capsule after you've been walking around on the moon.
Yeah, one of the astronauts did that, and he said it smells like burnt steak.
No.
He did a moon. No, he didn't do a moonwalk. He did a. He walked around the space station. He did an EV.
Yep.
If I remember correctly, and he said outer space smells like burnt steak.
Or the interior atmosphere of the International Space Station, yeah. And the moon smells like it's burnt coals.
Now we know where the burnt steak came from. They left it on the moon too long.
Could be. So,
Sorry.
So, all right. So let's. You know what? Let's. All right. While we got a couple of moments, let's kind of go through these pieces. Like I said, we being of an older set, we have many more experiences. Some of us were born in the 60s, maybe even into the 70s, depending as to who's listening, who's watching, whatever. I will admit, I was born in 69, March, so I have lived from the time before man walked on the moon. I have no active memory of the moon landing, although I was told at like 4 months old, I was there and watched it. So some of these things from, like I was saying, somebody that would be 35 years old at this point. Like I said, Hubble went into orbit. Amazing piece. Disappointment, and then holy balls, what amazing pieces NASA gave us afterwards.
Once they got it working.
Once they got it working, yes. And if there's one thing that NASA is good at, problem solving. Holy smoke, man!
They got Apollo 13 home.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah. Everything has to be backed up, parts in triplicate.
Yeah.
They literally wrote the standard on how to properly splice wires and everything else. Ask a good electrical engineer, about splicing wires, and if they tell you they use the NASA standard, it's like, at least it's not going to fall apart.
Yeah. And
see, I was a teenager. I gravitated towards computers like a duck to water.
Quack.
I loved them.
Quack.
And I had 2 teachers that were actually supportive of my love of computers.
Quack.
And they let me have extra time in the art room in the computer department because we actually developed an art computer department. So I was playing on computer graphics program when I was 16 and 17. It was an IBM pretty pitiful thing, but compared to even some of the basic art programs now, but I had the 16 colors, the basic, and was able to draw some stuff. And if it wasn't for those two teachers who actually supported me with my love of computers before I graduated, I probably would be a technophobe.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. I encounter a lot of people of the generation of the two talking heads that had what I couldn't even begin to call a debate. It was more like two old men trying to one up each other because they had nothing better to do with their lives. Um, I encounter a lot of people in that age group that fit one or two stereotypes. Either because I used to teach computers. And when I would get the people from that generation, I would encounter one of two types, generally speaking. There were outliers, of course, but there were two common types, and they were borderline stereotypes. The first type, my favorites, were the ones that took notes on everything, tried, made mistakes, went back, did it again, checked their notes, asked questions, and engaged. Okay. Sure, they destroyed a whole lot of rainforest taking all their notes by hand, but they got through it. And then the other ones, they were like, I don't understand this. I don't study computers. And it's like, all I've asked you to do is hit the space bar on the keyboard. Well, nothing here says space bar. How am I supposed to know what that is? Have you used a typewriter before? No. Oh, okay.
Uh,
Yeah, you've had things done for you. Okay. Um, the long bar is the space bar. When you press on it, it creates a space, usually in the word typing program. Well, why am I hitting this? It's like, because it's the big one and it's hard to miss. Yeah.
yeah, the
So,
spacebar is the any key.
And I've seen people from that generation, as well as some of the younger ones, um, it, interviewing and harassing technology companies, congressional hearings and all that fun stuff. And it's like, you are trying to sound smart when you're going after a technology company, but you don't even know what you're talking about. Um, you have to have somebody that works for you that understands technology. You really need to have that person do the interview, or give them a list of things that you need addressed, let them review it and say, hey boss, um, yeah, you don't want to ask Apple about a Google product because it's an Apple company. They don't make Google products. If you ask this question, you're going to look like a fool.
yeah.
If you repeatedly ask this question, you're going to look like a fool and you're going to get laughed at and you're going to get called names. And if you keep pushing it, you're going to waste all your time. And you can guess which scenario actually happened, you know.
Yeah.
I have to admit, I'm an Apple loser when it comes to my watch, my tablet, and my phone.
I don't care
Why?
what people use.
For
It's the fact that
simplicity.
it doesn't matter. The thing is that I encounter people who look at Apple products and go, "This is too complicated because it's technology." It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
Now, the thing about some people, older people, being very, very non-tech savvy, as was described, is, and this is now an anachronism, once upon a time ago, and you can see this as easily as late as 1980, and I'll explain how I can prove that to you. There used to be what was called the typing pool. It was a bunch of people with typewriters, eventually electric ones, that their entire job was to take whatever information, transcriptions, and type them up into documents so that they can be filed properly later. And that was their job. And it was usually women work. because that's who was hired for it. Because, and I can tell you that it was as easily as late as 1980 when this was happening, because you can pull up the movie with Dolly Parton, 1980, if I remember correctly. I do believe is what year it came out. The movie 9 to 5. And that's what they were doing. The girls were in the office pool for that.
Yes, it is 1980.
I would also like to point out that
One
a
for
lot
me.
of my students of the elderlies, more were women than men, and most of them did know how to type. So working a computer for them, the hard thing that they had to understand was coordinating the cursor to hand motions with the mouse.
Yeah, because
Which
keyboard, hey, I've been doing this for years, man.
exactly. But
I still use keyboard shortcuts instead of using my mouse to
okay.
right click left.
That's okay, but you know the difference between right click and left click.
Yep.
Okay.
And middle click and scroll and
Yeah,
alternate scroll.
but do you realize, because I think you're the youngest of the three of us, that computers, especially Windows computers, when you used to first buy them and first take, if you were buying a commercial made one, and you first take it out of the box, set it up, and turn it on, and you got into DOS and then you booted up Windows, it would take you through a tutorial of how to use the mouse, drag and drop, single left click, double click, right click, if you were lucky enough to have a mouse with the right mouse button. And yeah, that used to be a thing too. The thing is that like one of my family members is in the whole age group of like Biden, and a lot of the things that they know is through muscle memory at this point, and they can't really deviate it from very well. When deviation is requested, I end up fixing things, a lot of things.
Well,
We have
that's
too many people in positions of authority over the legislation and laws and basically what we want society to be, who function at this level where, oh, things have changed, I don't like change, I'm not going to do it. And oh, so you've just affected 330 million Americans because you don't like change.
TikTok.
yeah. So, yeah,
Let's
that's
not get on the security implications of TikTok and Temu.
that's a whole other thing.
That's
Now,
another story.
again, that's part of the reason why I wanted to go through a couple of these world events. Like I said, over the last 35 years, just gonna hit a couple of them. If you got a couple of real quick comments to be putting on them, hey, cool. By the way, over there, over in the chat, I am reading up on you guys. I am I'll just hit a couple of things really quickly. Stephanie pointed out, I see Biden as a placekeeper. It's his team that does the work. He's training up Kamala for the next election. Of course, someone else will come along and take over then. Possible, sure. I wouldn't be at all surprised because the cynic in me says, yeah, I don't see that as out of the realm. But at the same time, she's in her early 50s. Not so bad, but really like to see somebody younger. And of course that there is going to be elections out that way. I'm really hoping for a less than right-wing election cycle for you guys. We'll just leave it at that. So going back.
I'm going to have to break your poor little heart. She's 59. She'll be turning 60 this year in October.
Okay.
So she's part of that group, but because she's a woman, she's not part of that group. You know, it's
didn't remember that part.
It's the white men that have been ruling the country for far too long. She's one of the few women that have actually gotten into that, and she's not white. She's a woman of color. She's a beautiful woman. I don't remember exactly what all of her biography says, but she's a woman.
No, fair
But
enough.
she's also of that same age group. Was born in 1964.
Yeah, see that now. Thank you. I glanced at it really quickly. I didn't catch it quite correctly. Okay. So again, going back to the 1990s, and reminding you, these are the 90s, not even 2000s yet.
Oh, yeah.
Bill Clinton became president. Okay, not that big a thing.
But he also banned all research on human cloning.
That was another piece. The Branch Davidian standoff in Waco, Texas, which was a horrific item that ended up happening.
Yes. They
would not have active memory of that, but their lifetime they lived through that. The human cloning thing. The impeachment of President Clinton in '99, which that was a whole thing. Thank you very kindly. And
really, people would stop worrying about what other people do with consenting adults behind closed doors and making a big TV theatric out of it.
Yeah, and the one that really hurt me especially, 95, TWA Flight 800 explodes off the coast of Long Island. Reminding you, I grew up on Long Island. So that might be something that they would have some vague recollection about because, 5 years old. So going now into 2000. So approximately 10 years old at this point. So the likelihood of having active memory of this, far and away more likely. The election that had George W. Bush winning courtesy of the Supreme Court and the hanging Chads. We're not going to go into that because that in and of itself is like 14 hours of ranting on my part. So we're not going to go into that, but that was a thing. They're now 11 years old. The terror attacks on the World Trade Center and the Pentagon, and the plane that landed in Pennsylvania, which it is fair to say literally changed the planet.
I remember
how we handled
everything.
Politics. Yeah.
I remember when that happened and Vancouver found out that we had a whole bunch of stranded people from America, from other countries who could not fly because the North American airspace was grounded. And
go ahead.
And I wanted to go and rescue somebody, but I couldn't. But I know somebody in the States who's part of a clearinghouse for names of natural disasters. If there's even a minor earthquake here, I have to tell him that I'm okay. And I took names that were given to me and I sent them to him, and he sent back whether or not they were on the list of casualties. I'm so thankful I had nobody to tell the bad news to. Same thing happened during the Boston Marathon. Passing names on. Are these people injured? Are they dead? Are they part of this? No. Thank goodness.
September 11th, I was at work. And I actually was on the metro station in the Washington, D.C. area when the first trade center got hit with a plane. And I was off the metro and at home by the time the second plane crashed into the World Trade Center. Then I heard about the Pentagon being hit and going, I'm kind of glad I didn't stay late today because I was in the neighborhood of the Pentagon.
I've never talked about this. I was at work at the ISP. The boss was in his office, small office, and he called us all over to his office. Now, reminding you that the ISP was all of maybe what, half dozen of us, give or take. And on this relatively small TV that he had, it was a scene from the helicopter, showing the first impact, smoking in the tower. And at first, I was not, obviously not happy about it, but at the same time, I remembered that in the 40s, as I recall, the early 40s, there was a bomber that kind of got lost in the cloud cover in the fog and ended up impacting into the, I believe it was the Empire State Building. It didn't take down the building, of course, but that was the first thing I thought of, that, you know, it's going to be okay. It's still going to be okay. And literally right in front of us at that moment was the second impact on this little screen. I was born in Brooklyn, where I grew up was just a stone's throw away from the water at the Belt Parkway. Could have seen from there. My grandparents lived in the Bay Ridge Towers facing Manhattan, and we would look with my grandfather's hunting scopes, because he was a hunter, and we'd look at, we'd look at the Statue of Liberty while she was going through reconstruction and refurbishment, and look at the skyscrapers, see the towers. The towers were built during my lifetime.
When were the towers started?
I believe they opened in 73, or construction began, but I literally crumpled in the doorway of my boss's office seeing this, and he turned off the TV and just said, "Close it all down. Go home, close it all down. Put on the out of office emergency thing. No phone calls. Just go home." We still had some we still had one motherfucker who called and complained that he couldn't do his stock trading when things happened, and we actually had to explain to him that at the time a good portion of all internet traffic went through what is now a fucking crater in downtown Manhattan. So we gave him a partial refund for the amount of time that the internet was unavailable because the biggest major data hub was out for a couple of hours until it could be rearranged.
Yeah, the cell phone towers too were a mess. They're people didn't realize, but at the time, I don't know if it still occurs. I think now accounts are just flagged. But back then, with the cell phone technology that we had, there was a firmware code that could be changed to change the priority of connection for your cell phone. So if you signed up with Sprint or AT&T or one of those vendors or such, you could show them your credentials and say, "Hey, I'm a firefighter. I'm a police officer. This is my phone." And they would change the code in your phone. And during a time of event, like, for example, 9/11, when everybody was trying to connect via phone calls, if I was on there and a firefighter needed to connect, it would kick my phone out, my connection off, because the firefighter is more important. And I had changed my phone's firmware. I knew this about my phone and many other phones because I'm heavily into technology, and I actually had changed mine. Now, if my provider had found out at the time, I would have gotten in a lot of trouble. But it was just that phone at that time, and I undid it. And what I did was is I knew the phone lines were going to be slammed, so I sent text messages to my folks because they knew I was going to be in Pentagon City and saying, "I'm home, I'm fine," and that got through. But there was a lot of people who um, nowadays when we have a big tragedy in this country or whatever, um, they give out the advice, when you look online, don't try to call, send a text message. It's a smaller data packet. It's likely to get through, even if it gets pushed back by priority in the buffer. It's probably still going to get through, even if it's delayed. A phone call, if it doesn't connect, it doesn't connect. It's probably not going to connect because it takes up too much bandwidth. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
Half of my family is American, my paternal half. The other half is Canadian, my maternal half. I got on the phone early. The second building hadn't been hit, and I asked him, "Is this World War III, Daddy?" "No, Princess, it's not." He had been discharged from the Marine Corps for a couple decades at that point, but he could have been called back up, and he was actually looking at it. So could his brothers, and so could his nephews that were old enough to fight. His own son was not quite old enough. And the next time I talked to him, which was a couple months later, I found out that my kid's sister had a field trip to the World Trade Center scheduled later that month. Boston Marathon, one of my kid sister's uncles lives in Boston, and I think he was affected. But that family doesn't talk to me much about what happened, so I let it be.
For the record, I do believe that that is the first time that I have mentioned about that specific event ever since it happened.
Mm-hmm.
Continuing, 2005, Hurricane Katrina. 2007, economic recession. Hurricane Ike in Texas, 2008. So again, getting into the teen years for these kids, 18 now. Also have the global financial crisis in September of 2008. Barack Obama is elected. Theoretically, some of them would have been able to vote for him. And cool. Get the younger generation in there. There was a lot of push for that. And I'm very glad to see it. Because that means more recently educated minds are coming in at that point into the voting pool. The Tea Party protests in 2009, so 19. Michael Jackson dies also in that year, for what it's worth. And the Fort Hood shooting, also that same year, 13 servicemen killed. And I'm going to pause there for just a moment. I don't like to talk about the tragic items, but I want to hit that one very specifically for a second. Fort Hood, the Fort Hood shooting that killed 13 people on an army base where there are safeguards in place to make sure that you're supposed to be as safe as possible so that this kind of thing doesn't happen. And yet, and reminding you, some of us also lived through the early 80s when one of the best trained security forces, the Secret Service, are supposed to protect and make sure that guns don't get anywhere near the president. And yet, these things will continue to happen. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when. It's a question of how well we prevent it from happening. And they would have lived through this. They would have experienced this. They would have known about it. It's active for them.
The youngest man that was killed on that day was 19.
Tech, what was the average age of the soldiers who were killed in Vietnam?
I gotta Google that because my brain doesn't
No, you
work
don't.
very well.
What was the age that she just listed?
18 to 20?
19.
19.
The Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act comes up now. They're 20. Deepwater Horizon happens. The United States Census 2010 happened. So they're 20. They're part of that now. The Navy lifts its ban on women in submarines. Who knew that was only in 2010? You know what?
I remember something vaguely about it. But then again, well, those are details I just don't want to give out.
No, that's fine. There's one last item from 2010. Reminding you, this means that there are now, was it 20, 30? Anyway,
Something like that.
I've lost track because my head's having a little bit of a hard time at the moment. Here we go. 2010 signed into law the Don't Ask, Don't Tell Repeal Act.
Yep.
It wasn't until 2010 that that's just no longer a thing. That culturally, the military has to actually just, get over its own damn self.
People are slow to change.
Yeah.
People in positions of authority and power, even slower, because there's plenty of change that would threaten. It's like the little caveman who tells everyone that there's the god in the cave, but they're not allowed to go into the cave or the god will smite them. But he's allowed to go in the cave to talk to the god. Yeah, because the god talks to him, and it says okay. So he goes in the cave, then comes out and says, okay, well, you need to give your food and this, that, and the other thing. I'll bring it into the god. Meanwhile, he's eating in the cave, and other people outside the cave are starving. Eventually, somebody else figures it out, and a priesthood's built around the concept of the god in the cave. And they realize if, it changes, they're going to lose out on all this free food they've been getting. Now, all you do is you fast forward thousands of years or hundreds of years, however you want to look at it, depending on where you are in the world. And Guess what? They're politicians, they're lawyers, they're judges, they're, whatever. They're government. And they don't want to lose their free stuff. They don't want to lose all the nice things. And if we're too busy trying to make ends meet, if we're too busy fighting each other over who's right and who's wrong, rather than going, hey, these jerks are taking advantage of us, we can settle the whole concept, the whole idea of when does life begin, conception versus whatever. But we need to get these monkeys off our back. We really need to get these people who are pushing our heads in the sand and doing very bad things to us to stop. And we're not doing that. So,
Yeah.
And these are backwards thinking people. They're resistant to change. They have seen all these tragedies and everything else, and they still treat us like shit. And we vote for them because we're told there's no better option when there's plenty.
The thing that I want to get in there, and I'll by all means, just drop in at any point. The thing that I want to make sure that I've reminded us is that, like I said, for some of us, we've seen other pieces. We've seen, in some case, we have seen what the economy, the standard of living, the better times, the decent times for many more people looked like. And we had our moments that were not so great. We had the OPEC crisis. We had people lining up for gas rationing. We had monopoly busting in telecommunications. There were various things that ended up popping up that they weren't great, but they weren't life changing, so to speak, in the most grotesque of ways. Not like the Tylenol poisonings that literally changed how everything is manufactured in consumables these days. We saw some things and they affected how we looked at the world. What happens to a life that grew up seeing these things happen that we've talked about? And admittedly, there were other good things that ended up happening. But when you're affected by these kinds of things, and you see from a young age, when for kids, humans, we have an innate sense of fair play. It's just a thing. We've talked about that before. And when you see the fair play be pushed to the side and completely scoffed at and completely ignored and trampled on, what does that do to the person, to the generation that lives through that? I'm just waiting to see when the wave of the new kids come in and have just said, you know what, enough of this bullshit, it's our turn, and force their way in. Because we've said before, these old fuckers are going to die off sooner or later, and I'll be happy if it's sooner.
The boomer remover didn't remove enough boomers.
Yeah.
Problem is it didn't just target boomers.
Yeah,
Agreed.
no.
Agreed. And
Oh,
want to make
I
sure
know.
that want to make sure that we understand. We are not advocating the active removal of lives here. It's a simple biological necessity. It's just the way that things work. People end up aging out. I mean, hell, we had a Supreme Court justice literally age herself out at one point, not too very long ago. You might have heard of her. So these older people who technically should be retiring, they need to be retiring. There's no reason for these people to be there. And there is every reason why 45 should be the average age for the people who are in positions of federal authority. They have the newer ideas. They have more recent education. They have families, one would expect. They are in the early part, the mid, I should say, part of the family building cycle, as expected. They have reason for they have reasons for trying to maintain peace, stability, and prosperity, but would still have the ability of calling on reactions when necessary. Can you imagine what a Congress of 45-year-olds who've gone through some of this stuff would be like now? So many different theses. So many different pieces would be different.
It also depends on what walk of life they come from, too.
Agreed.
Because the really, really wealthy ones, it didn't affect them as much as it affected the rest of us.
I graduated from high school. I looked at my career options. And I realized I was screwed. First off, even though college at that point in time wasn't that expensive as it is now, the boomers would not be moving out of the seats that they occupied while Gen X was alive. By the time the boomers actually started to move out, Gen X would be too old to actually do anything. Maybe my children's children might be able to do something. And that's what I came to at 18. At 18, 1990.
Yeah, and I just looked it up. If the information on Wikipedia is to be properly believed, and again, I'm kind of fudgy on this one just a little. Life expectancy, 18th century male life expectancy at birth was 34 years. Now, that's, of course, an average number, going with information that would not have been collated nearly as well as what we could do today, of course. But, yeah, there's something to be said for that. Because also, Stephanie put out, when the Constitution was written, what was the normal age for the founders to pass from this world? How about that as the compulsory retirement age for today's senators, etc.? I mean, I do not believe that people who have retirement age as part of their bio should be continuing to be in politics. And the retirement age in the United States, as I recall, is... God, what the hell is it? Is it 55? I don't remember what it's supposed to be. I vaguely remember 55 as being, at least not too very long ago, was considered the
55, I think, was like 1920.
Full retirement in age is 62.
Oh,
Benefit by birth of year.
All right, so I'm a little out of
60
touch.
Yeah, it's 62 currently for full benefit coverage. And depending on the year you were born determines actually how much you're getting. So, for somebody who was born, say, 1955, right? So that's what? 50. They're going on 70 years old. I got my calculator. Wait, 50. Yeah, so one more year, they'd be 70 years old, right? Um, they're only going to get roughly $354. Or, I'm sorry, um, that would be the spouse. 741. I don't know of any place where you can get $741 a month and live off of it. I don't think there's a cardboard box on the street that's that cheap in rent right now.
no, cardboard boxes on the street are at least $1,000.
Yeah, see. And of course, with what just happened in the United States Supreme Court, um, yeah, if you don't have a legitimate place of living, maybe you lost your job or maybe you're on retirement and nothing's covering it. It's not covering anything. You can be arrested. 3 hots in a cot.
And yet we have too much housing. We just have people that can't afford it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you got the
There's like
same problem over in China. They
there's
have
twice the amount of there's twice the amount of housing here available as there are people, but the costs and the prices are so high, nobody can afford it.
and that's because companies were allowed to buy up a lot of houses, do a little tiny bit of remodeling, and jack up the damn prices because it made them lots of money. Because this person's going to live out in the boonies where that house costs a quarter of what it costs them where they live. Let's go buy the house ahead of them, do a little bit of remodeling, and then charge them 3 times its current price or value. Suddenly, it's only slightly cheaper to move out in the middle of the boonies. It was done as a punishment for us lowly workers wanting to have something nice for ourselves, like work from home policies.
Work from home, unions that protect us.
Yeah, it was all a punishment. It was all a cash grab and a punishment, power control.
How dare we think that we have rights? We're just measly little serfs.
Hey, if you're not making enough money to actually control votes and to control politics, you're part of the working class.
This might seem a little gorish, but at least last year, for a while, people on the Atlantic coast were eating the rich.
Something to be said for that.
There's only one thing the fair good for, eat the rich.
So
My stepdad.
So before we get out of here, because it's getting really close to that, and I've been napping really hard, off and on all day today.
Considering you look like you're sunburned again.
It could be almost anything right now. I have not been outside. I have not been drinking any alcohol. I've been, like I said, I've been power napping all day, off and on.
It's the cumulative effect of being out in the sun, even indirect sunlight, and being in places that aren't air conditioned and aren't cool enough so that you can actually cool your body down over a period of a week. All it takes is like an hour a day for it to affect you. And by the time your Friday comes along and you get off work, you're dehydrated, you have electrolyte imbalance, and your body crashes for at least 24 hours. And you have to try and recover enough in order to get back up into the grind on your Monday.
I mean, yeah. But I've dropped over 100 pounds, so, go me.
I've done 10.
I mean, it took me a year, but...
I've done 10 in 2 weeks. Yay! Go me!
That's good. Yeah, was there any last item that you wanted? I'm gonna give it over to you because you've definitely had the least talk time at the moment. So leave it for you if you've got some last thought.
I didn't actually watch the debate the other night. I was too busy doing volunteer stuff for Second Life for the birthday celebration. Tomorrow's the last day. So I didn't get to watch it, but man, if the news programs are, I believe, red-leaning, boy, did Biden get the right up the... And he does little mistakes, and he gets griefed. And this happened not just with him, but with Obama, Clinton. You go back far enough, every single Democrat, they do little mistakes. They get so much grief. Yeah, here we have a convicted felon sitting at a podium across from the incumbent, the current president. I can talk. Yes, I can talk. And he's got this mouthpiece that won't shut up. And all he's doing is spouting verbal vomit. It makes sense to us, says the people wearing his hats. He speaks our language. Yeah, verbal vomit. And this guy who's trying to do his best, and you can tell he's actually starting to fail because his brain isn't thinking fast enough anymore. They're jumping on that, yet they're looking at their nice little felon, their wonderful little guy. Oh yeah, he's perfect. He's our guy. He's our guy. Oh, I hope he gets slammed in jail so fast.
Will happen.
We can dream, man.
It's basically, if you cannot conscientiously vote for that felon because he is a felon, vote
For felons.
vote liberal, independent, whatever, but at least vote. If you're normally a blue voter, vote blue. Because if we have Biden in the office for another 4 years, at least we know we have a decent person standing right behind him, ready to take the reins. She's not perfect, okay? But at least she's...
Dude, even the black community doesn't like her.
Let's call this one straight. Tech, if you had your choice between Kamala or Mike Pence taking over the center seat, who would you pick?
God, neither of them.
Yes, but unfortunately,
I would actually vote independent.
I personally I'd write in Bernie myself, but I mean that's neither here nor there. But
Bernie.
we had a freaking bird land on his podium. Disney was ready to send a fucking cease and desist letter to him for exactly that, for copying Cinderella.
Cinderella, Aurora, Snow White.
Look, I get it. You vote for the lesser of two evils. But at this point, voting for the lesser of two evils is doing us no good. Voting for the right person is what we need. And we are not going to find that in either the Democrats or the Republicans at this time. So when I say go vote, I say go vote for somebody good. Forget your party line. Forget that it ever existed. Remember, if you really want to go back, remember our forefathers warned us, do not do a two-party system because the level of corruption and loss of control is just too high a risk. Not in so many words, mind you. But they did warn us against a two-party system. And those are the forefathers everybody loves to quote. So let's actually pay attention to something that they said that was important. Find the person who's good. Get their ass through the door. Not these damn clowns that we have that are talking about who's going to get a better golf score or have to carry their bag. Really? At a presidential debate? Golf score? Can you say should not be a president at all? Ever again? Or anytime? I can. Because the last thing I want to hear my president coming out of my mouth is, oh, I had a better golf game than my opponent. The country's on fire. I don't care about your golf game.
The country's on fire. Where's our... I'll demonetize. Where is our melding fire extinguisher?
Yeah. No.
Oh, we don't have one? Why don't we have one?
I'll say it right now. I'm not voting for either one of those two Yahoos. I've got my third-party candidate. I'm going for it because I can't go for either one of those parties at this point. I have a better option on the table, and if you're constantly going, I'll go with meh instead of the better option, which I might be able to have a chance at, I'm going to take the chance on having the better option. And until the rest of the country needs to start doing that shit too. Seriously, vote for your better option. Don't vote for these old ass clowns.
So I'm going to close this up with this. If we're lucky enough and we're actually being listened to by somebody who is younger, and I don't necessarily mean, 20s, because, no. 30s? Mid-40s even? We've said it before. When you are a parent, you are the steward of a new life. Your duty, never mind responsibility, your duty is to help that new life learn how to be. And that sounds like such philosophical drivel. But it's true. That's the way it's supposed to be. We are supposed to be the stewards. We are supposed to be the examples, the teachers. We are their primary educators because we are with them far and away more than anyone else for the most important part of their development. There are things that are simply ingrained in us as mammals. And there's other stuff that's simply taught. And when it becomes time, we need to relinquish control of their lives to them. Because it's now their responsibility. And sure, yeah, it's scary, but we have to take a step back and allow them to do. Be there to, safeguard them, cushion the fall when something inevitably happens. But it's our job to set them on their course. Not on our course, on theirs. That goes in all things. And I will tell you, it is harder for me to say these words than you might think. Because I've had to do that with my son over the last few years. But there is an entire generation and a half that is biting to try to get their foot in the door and is being bolted from the backside. You greedy sons of bitches need to stop it. There is a social contract, and you're breaking it. And you were the ones who taught us what fair play is supposed to be all about. You taught us that we're supposed to expect good things, that we're supposed to follow the social rules and the norms, eat our vegetables, wait our turn, give up the position once we're done with it. Stop being a hypocrite. Get out of the way, because you've done your time. Go out fishing, for crying out loud. Because you could do it either one of two ways. Either you can go out fishing and be remembered forever as a guy in the red satin jacket with the fisherman's hat on behind Dr. Sagan in Cosmos. Hi, Grandpa. Or you can go out there on a fishing boat and be remembered as Fredo. With that, we'll call it a night. Thank you, everybody, for being with us. We really do appreciate you. We hope that you found something worthwhile in all of our perspectives and you got something to think about for the week ahead. As always, you guys over there in the chat, thank you very much. I hope that all of those references come back for you. So, Seeker, Stephanie, Felis, guys, thank you. Take care of yourselves. It's always a pleasure. Io, thanks for being with us. You know, it's always
as much as I could have. I'm sorry.
Well, that's okay. You were here. You've been doing a lot of work, and you know, just thank you on that. Even though by the time folks get the chance to kind of hear this, they're not going to understand what it was that was going on. Why don't you tell them what you were doing during recording this week, and maybe they'll know about it for next time.
Ooh. Did I just... Ooh.
I'm giving you an opening to say, you know, your thank you and what it was that you were doing that's kind of had you split down the middle of your brain.
Oh, yeah. Second Life, which is a virtual reality type of game. You have an avatar, and basically you can be what you want to be. And a lot of people like being very artistically creative. They cannot be that in any other game, anywhere else. There's been some places I've tried. I mean, come on, you got legs in Second Life. Yes, I'm making a jab at one of the others. And for the last week, Second Life has been celebrating its 21st birthday, so now they can drink, as in Second Life itself. And it's been a music fest, and tomorrow is the last day, and I've been one of the volunteers. Officially, I've done 67 hours of volunteer work in a week. This means no pay. So, yeah, I'm a masochist in that way. And Shujin made me a wonderful starter to start my sets from now on, and I'm going to use it every single time.
And
it's so cute. I love it.
And Io harassed me enough to do a show this past Tuesday as of recording. My hour set was all cartoons, just all cartoons, and it was a hell of a time. So,
and somebody beat you. Somebody beat you.
This is true. This is true. The show was intentionally just broadcast TV cartoons, which I realized after the fact. I did one or two streaming cartoon themes, which I shouldn't have by the rules that I set down for myself. I didn't even realize I had done it. But somebody had come up and somebody had put it out there that they wanted the theme from Fraggle Rock. And I came on the microphone and was like, I'm not playing that because Fraggle Rock was not an animated show. God damn it.
Yes,
They proved that there was an animated Fraggle Rock cartoon. So, okay, I got schooled. I love it when that happens. And yes, the theme was very, very almost the same. So there was that. So thank you, Io. Appreciate it.
If it wasn't for the 500 or so performers that step up and volunteer their time of just 1 hour, some acts are 2 hours, give or take, we couldn't have this. And we get musicians and artists from all over the world. I saw this dance person today who puts you into a thing that you step on, and your avatar gets animated by their device. And she had us all dancing in unison. And I was thinking the entire time, Jeannie, you'd love this. Jeannie and Spider Robinson wrote Star Dance, and I felt like a star dancer. It was Second Life. It's a way for people to be what they cannot be in real life. And I love it.
Cool. Thanks, hon. And Tech, glad you're able to make it. You take care of yourself, and just good luck with whatever heat wave starts coming your way again this week, huh?
Oh yeah. I become friends with two of my neighbors, Air and Conditioning.
I can't say that I'm familiar with them, but I think I've heard of them.
Yeah, they're when you live in an area where humidity goes bend over, you gotta have an air conditioner, either window or otherwise. It's just otherwise you're going to bake. You're going to become a hot pocket.
So noted.
The house is the outside. You the creamy filling. Yeah.
Fair enough. You take care of yourself. As always, everybody, thank you very much. We will be looking forward to seeing you again next week. If you'd like to be in touch with us, of course, all the information is over on the website, holycrapthevlogcast.com. Take a swing over through the show notes for any links for other stuff, for instance, the Discord channel. The phone number, I don't know that I'm going to continue it. I got a notice from Google that says, hey, you want to still use it because you haven't used it in a long time. For right now, at least. 859-HCTV 554 859-4288 554. And we will be talking to you again next week. As a reminder, by the way, let me double check something. Of course, this week, as of recording, this week coming up is Canada Day and American Independence Day. And then 2 weeks after that is Felon Appreciation Day, or hopefully Behind Bars Day. We'll see how that plays out. Anybody that's got a 7-Eleven franchise, this is your big opportunity. Orange Slurpee is the way to go.
God.
Keep that in mind. So until that next time we're together, I'll be looking forward to that one. But, as always, I wish you the peace I no longer have. I wish you the strength that I've learned. I wish you well. And of course, my lady, 19 years later, I am still in love. Well, Matane Fujin. I love you. I miss you. Dream of me. Till the next time we're together, everyone. As always, good night.